The Phoenix Suns dropped game 4 to the Milwaukee Bucks as Chris Paul looked really, really old in the game. We'll talk more about it after the bumper. What's happening, everybody? Jeff Lightsy Jr. here with the Black Boss Channel and Victory Formation. Be sure to hit the thumbs up button, like, share, subscribe, as the Milwaukee Bucks have tied their series against the Phoenix Suns in the NBA Finals as Chris Middleton goes for 40, Devin Booker goes for 42. But the story of the game, in my eyes, was the play of one CP3, one Chris Paul. The Bucks win this one 109 to 103. Chris Paul just was himself. 10 points, 7 assists, 6 turnovers, including a late turnover that was huge in catapulting the Bucks into this win. As I said, Chris Middleton dropped 40. Devin Booker for Phoenix had 42, including 38 through 3 quarters. Giannis Antetokounmpo, 26 and 14, not to mention 2 of the biggest blocks of his career, including the alley-oop block on DeAndre Ayton that prevented Phoenix from tying the game late in the ball game. But the story, like I said, was Chris Paul and the defense put on by Drew Holiday. Now, Drew Holiday is someone who is not shooting the ball very well this series. I mean, again, last night he went 4 for 20. He's missing a bunch of layups. He's missing a bunch of shots that he normally would make. But his defense going 94 feet, guarding Chris Paul from, backcourt to front court, all the way 94 feet throughout the duration of the entirety of the game, and forcing him into 5 turnover games, 6 turnover games, 15 turnovers for Chris Paul over the course of the last 3 games. That is because of the defense of Drew Holiday. That is because Drew Holiday is in his grill, leaning on him, putting his weight on him. He's bigger than Chris Paul. He's taller than Chris Paul. He's giving Chris Paul problems. And Chris Paul isn't getting to his spots and making the shots that he had been making in those previous rounds. He isn't getting to the spots and making those shots that he was making in the previous games. He isn't getting to the spots and making his shots because Drew Holiday is in his grill the entirety time of the game, the entirety of the game. And that wears on a person. And so by game 4, it looked like Chris Paul was tired. By game 4, it looked like Chris Paul was old. By game 4, it looked like that fatigue has set in on Chris Paul. Devin Booker was cooking, right? Devin Booker was giving them straight cups, 42, 38 through 3 quarters, 18 points in the 3rd quarter alone. Like, he was going crazy. But his running mate, Chris Paul, was not going. And when Chris Paul is struggling, then DeAndre Ayton's going to struggle. Because DeAndre Ayton has been able to elevate his game not only this season, but specifically throughout these playoffs because of the play of Chris Paul. DeAndre Ayton is one of those old school, back to the basket, still athletic type of centers, type of 5-man. And to get the most out of DeAndre Ayton, you need a pass-first facilitating point guard. And that's what Chris Paul is. Not only is he that, he's one of the best to ever do it. But when Drew Holiday is giving him problems throughout the entirety of the game and he can't facilitate the way he wants, that's a problem. And then he can't create his shot the way he wants, that's a problem. And then even when he gets the looks on his shots are falling short and are not going in because he's tired or maybe fatigued. That is also a problem. And all of those problems spell a big problem for the Phoenix Suns if they want to take home a championship. Monty Williams said it best after the game. You have 3 games to win 2. It's the best out of 3 series now for both teams. The benefit that the Suns have is that they have home court advantage. So they'll get game 5 at home and a potential game 7 at home. That's the beauty behind having the winning 2 games in 3 games, 2 out of 3 games. And 2 out of those 3 games will be in Phoenix. And normally role players play better in Phoenix. But also the problem that they have, though, that's a good. They got good news and got bad news. That's the good news. 2 of the 3 games will be in Phoenix if need be. The bad news is they can't do anything with Giannis. He is literally doing whatever, whenever he wants in these games. He started off slow in this game. He had to come out early, said he had to use the bathroom. He wasn't playing himself, and somehow, some way, he comes off back-to-back 40-point games to finish with 26 and 14. And then Chris Middleton got going. And that was the thing. Chris Middleton and Drew Holiday hadn't been playing well this series. Chris Middleton, wasn't playing well at the beginning of this game. Then he got hot late. And that's not a good sign. Because if Chris Middleton starts to knock down his shots, Phoenix is in a world of trouble. Pat Connaughton hitting late clutch shots, Phoenix is in a world of trouble. The beauty for Phoenix, though, so there's always light at the end of the tunnel. There's only one player that had a really good game for Phoenix last night, and that was Devin Booker. Outside of Book, nobody really played that well. Jay Crowder had 15 points, but he went 3 of 9 to get there. He hit 3 threes, but he went 3 of 9. Ayton had 17 rebounds, but only scored 6 points. Now, Ayton and Chris Paul are going to be like this. So when Chris Paul plays well, it's normally going to lead to Ayton playing well. Chris Paul plays bad, it's normally going to lead to Ayton playing bad. So that's why Ayton had 17 rebounds, but only had 6 points. That has a lot to do with the fact that Chris Paul had 6 turnovers. Cameron Payne didn't play that well, only 9 points. Cam Johnson knocked some of his shots, but he had some bad late turnovers, and he hurt his ankle at the end of the game too. So, like, the fact that you were still somehow, some way up 7-9 points in the fourth quarter when only one guy played well does bode well for Phoenix. That shows you how talented this team is, including having 17 turnovers when Milwaukee only had 5. Now, you have to imagine that doesn't happen again. The turnover, differential, like the difference in turnovers isn't that big moving forward. You have to imagine that's not what's going to happen moving forward. 17 turnovers, 6 of them being committed by a Hall of Fame point guard in Chris Paul versus 5 from Milwaukee. You can't imagine that's going to happen again. So you get home to Phoenix. Phoenix going to have to look themselves in the mirror. Chris Paul, the pressure's on him because here's the thing. Phoenix is young. Now, granted, just because you're young doesn't mean anything, right? But logically, you think, okay, the young team ahead of schedule, hell, hadn't made the playoffs in a decade. And the first time they make the playoffs in a decade, they go to the finals. And not only do they go to the finals, they're 2 games away from winning the finals. You're way ahead of schedule. The problem with that, though, is Chris Paul isn't young. The Phoenix as a team's young. Chris Paul's 36. And the pressure is on CP3. Why? Because it looks like the young guys go as Chris goes. Devin Booker's going to get his, but young guys like DeAndre Ayton, Cam Johnson, Mikal Bridges go as their leader goes. And Chris Paul already has this reputation of not being clutch, losing playoff games, losing playoff series, being up 3-1, losing series where you had the KD Warriors on the rope, then you get hurt, always getting hurt during the playoffs. So the pressure is on CP3 because he's the Hall of Famer, not Cam Payne, not DeAndre Ayton, and not Jay Crowder. The Hall of Famer is Chris Paul. So the pressure is on him to make things happen and put them over the top to win this series and take home the championship. Leave your thoughts in the comments down below. Do you believe the pressure is on Chris Paul? And be sure to hit the thumbs up button and subscribe to the Black Boss channel and Jeff Lightsy Jr. on YouTube. Thank you guys for tuning in. I will see you next time. Peace.